Hello, my name is Tyler Richards. I am currently working at DevMountain, a company I co-founded that was acquired by Capella Education Company in May of this year, and I am an outlier.
Welcome to Outlier on Air with Ever Gonzalez, the show where we interview the founders, disruptors, and mavens of the world. Learn how grit, failure, and success are all a part of the entrepreneurial journey.
Hey everybody, welcome to Outlier on Air, the podcast where we interview founders, disruptors, and mavens. As always, I'm your host, Ever Gonzalez. On today's episode, we have Tyler Richards. He is a co-founder of DevMountain. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ever. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I know you a little bit. A few months ago, we had you down here in Southern Utah for one of our conferences, Founders Weekend. You presented. You killed it. All of the reviews that we received were very positive. So first of all, we want to thank you for coming down here and kind of mingling with our outliers down here in Southern Utah, and also for accepting our invitation to be on the show as well. So thank you.
No, super excited to be on the show, and yeah, that was an awesome conference and event that you threw. So happy to be a part of it. It was super awesome.
Great, thank you for that. So now let's before we really get into the nitty gritty stuff, tell us where you're calling us from.
So I'm currently in Provo, Utah, actually. So I'm just north of you guys down there in the desert.
So you're what, 15? How close are you to Salt Lake City? I think most of our people outside of Utah would know Salt Lake a little bit better than Provo. So how close are you to Provo or to Salt Lake?
Yeah, so Provo is just about like a 40-minute drive. I think it's like a 45-ish mile, location just south of Salt Lake City. So, yeah, we actually have a location in Salt Lake. So I actually spend a lot of my time bouncing between the two locations in Salt Lake and Provo. But I'm like headquartered and work my day-to-day out of Provo, Utah.
So Provo is making a lot of noise in tech and just entrepreneurship and startups in general. Tell us what's the vibe there in Provo right now as far as entrepreneurs, startups, VCs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's, from my perspective, it's really booming. I'd say over the last 5 to 10 years, I think Provo has proactively kind of pushed for that kind of ecosystem, with the mayor and the leadership and the business regulations and, how well, the economic development team of the city actually works closely with the startups and businesses. Again, they're just trying to seek that kind of startup-y, techy vibe. Because that just brings a ton of economy. So Provo over the last year with the mayor, who actually sadly has just announced that he's not going to be rerunning, they've done a phenomenal job at bringing that kind of talent and just overall feel, comparable to, we always talk about Silicon Valley, of course, but to little old Provo. And, it's showing. We have billion-dollar companies that are headquartered out of Provo that nobody knew about, 3-5 years ago. So it's working.
I love how entrepreneurs, right? We're going to do what we're going to do no matter what, right? We're not asking for permission. We're not doing any of that stuff. We're just going to make it happen. But
right.
With that being said, it helps quite a bit when you have the mayor and the local city officials and those type of organizations and people on your side. So it looks like a lot of good things are happening up there because you have the private sector and the public sector kind of mingling together and trying to make it happen. So that's all the articles that we hear, that we read, all the stories that we hear. It's a pro and so good for you guys for being able to take advantage of that. Are there any disadvantages for you and your company doing business out of Provo, if any?
I mean, there's always the outsider's perspective of, Utah as a state as a whole of, just the different culture that's here. And that also brings, I think, kind of a very plain demographic, I guess you could say. I think that would be one of the only downfalls to DevMountain and us running a business out of Provo is just, it's not amazingly diverse like a San Francisco or like a New York City or like, a Seattle, right? It's still Provo, Utah. The majority of people here are, the white male with a beard. And you know what I mean? It's your typical, just Utah in place. So I would say that would be the only downfall. But that being said, the talent here, you can get San Francisco, Seattle, or New York like work for way cheaper than any of those other metropolitan areas. Designers, developers, even entrepreneurs, people that you're hiring or people that you're getting on your team, they're just so much more bang for your buck. So I think, it's less diverse, but at the same time, just the quality of life for the amount you're paying or for the salaries you're paying your employees, so good out here in Utah for sure.
You brought up the talent. Is this homegrown talent that you have there, or are you finding outside talent that wants to kind of slow down? And you mentioned the lifestyle. They want that kind of lifestyle where they're not working, these crazy hours that entrepreneurs and startups do. What's the percentage of homegrown versus outside talent?
Yeah, I still think there's, of course, a majority of homegrown stuff, but, they're very capable people. Again, we talked about that culture a little bit. I think the culture in Utah is just hardworking, just, scrappy, get to it, entrepreneurs and workforce. But yeah, I think in the shorter time frame, maybe the last 3 to 5 years, not 5 to 10 years, but 3 to 5 years, I think Utah's done a really good job at attracting outside talent as well. Slow your roll, come play in the national parks, come ski, kind of type atmosphere to attract bigger, better talent from outside. So I think we're doing a better job at that. I still think we got a majority of homegrown people, but again, that's not a bad thing because I think the average worker, an entrepreneur or person here in Utah is a very capable person,
the future's bright there in northern Utah, especially out of Provo. So congratulations again for everything you guys are doing. And you guys are right in the mix, right? And so let's kind of dive right into it. I want to talk about DevMountain, and I want to talk about matchmake and the different things that you've done. But let's work backwards. So introduce us to DevMountain, what it is, how it works, what you're trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, so DevMountain's my latest project that I've been working on for since the beginning of 2013, so over 3 years now. And DevMountain is essentially just a tech school, actually, where we are training and teaching technical skills, modern skill sets for the 21st century, where we're teaching coding and app development and web development, UX design principles and curriculum. So we're taking kind of this newer tech skill set, and instead of taking 4 years like your average CS degree at your average university or college, what we're doing, we've condensed it down and into a 12-week format. So instead of 4 years, it's only 12 weeks, which is equivalent to 3 months. Mm-hmm. And in that 3-month period of time, essentially what we're doing is we're taking someone who has almost no background in development or technical skill sets, and we're training them in 12 weeks to become hireable and marketable within the industry that they've chosen. Whether that's design or development or coding apps or whatever it is. And it's working. We've seen a huge success rate, and this new industry is kind of formed, and they're calling them coding boot camps. Yes. And boot camps because there's such a short time frame with such a huge amount of curriculum and knowledge being, basically fire hosed into their head at once. So yes, it's very much like a boot camp where they're just all day, every day, 9 to 5, and most of our students are staying from 9 in the morning till 10, 11, midnight, so spending multiple hours a day, all day, every day for 12 weeks,
just
learning
busting
this
it
stuff.
out.
Yeah, busting it out day in and day out. So it's proving to be a great model, right? Where people are actually developing these skills, learning, and actually making, changing the trajectory of their life and their career and for their family and for themselves, right? So it's really cool. It's really cool to have a product that really does assist and aid and help people in their lives and the trajectory of their life, while at the same time it's profitable and makes some money as well, right? It's an actual churning business, right? It's not a money loser. It's not a charity. It's actually a profitable business that's helping people. It's cool.
Who's coming to you? What type of individuals are they? The guys and gals that don't really want to go to get a degree at a 4-year, or are they been bouncing from job to job, or the majority of the people that kind of sign up and want to do this, who is it, and where do they come from?
I'd say multiple choice answer D, all of the above.
Nice.
No, yeah. So we get a ton of people from a ton of different backgrounds, but yes, we do have a ton of people coming in from, either going through, the 4-year degree program and realizing that their English major isn't really going to do much for them and advance them in their life, right? Or we get a ton of people that are in the middle of that English major and they're like, you know what, this isn't really working out for me. I kind of want to switch gears here. And they come over to DevMountain and start a technical career. So, we have people who have some college credit and degree under their belt, or no degree, they're halfway through their degree, or we even have like midlife career changers, where they're 5-10 years into their degree and they're just into their career, and they're just like, you know what, this is not working out like I thought. I'm going to switch things up. Or we've even had straight out of high school students, 18-year-olds that are like, I don't think a 4-year degree is for me. I want to quickly learn this skill set and quickly get into career and start making a little bit of money.
Which is cool, right? I mean, I'm glad that these guys, as much as I have kids and I'm going to push them to try to get as much education as possible, and, we'll pay for their 4-year degrees and all that stuff and beyond.
Right.
But if one of them comes to me and says, hey, I already know that that's probably not for me, what else can I do? Like I would point
totally
them in this direction, right? But I'm assuming that there are, I don't know anything about what you're doing, right, as far as the coding, and that's not my skill set. Can anybody do this? And what's the dropout rate, if any, of those that sign up? I mean, truly, can you take a 40-year-old, like you're talking about, mid-career guy, and teach him how to do this stuff with no real technical background like that?
Yeah, so we have before, and we continue to do it. And again, we don't have like a specific demographic. I couldn't say, our average demographic is, this person with this background in this age range. Like literally it is 18 years old, the youngest, because you have to be 18 or older to come to DevMountain, all the way up. I think the oldest we've taught is a 54-year-old.
Nice.
So, anywhere in between there, without any kind of background or knowledge in coding, yes, we can take them from literally ground zero and again, get them to a point where they're at least hitting the minimum within the industry to where they're actually hireable, from companies. Because, DevMountain right now, we're experiencing about a 90% placement rate. It kind of fluctuates between, high 80s to low 90s, anywhere between like 85 to 95%, right? So, that's saying anybody that comes to DevMountain and really puts in the work and gives in the time, because it is a boot camp, it is hard, and we do have an application process, right? So we're kind of filtering the applications that are coming in. So we're looking for specific kind of people. But if you come in and put in the time and the work, you have like a 90% chance of getting, that career that you're looking for. And that's amazing, right? Where else can you say, I'm going to spend $10,000 and only 12 weeks of my time and have a 90% chance at getting, like a developer salary, right?
Now, I read somewhere, and maybe and correct me if I'm wrong, that even just in Utah, these type of jobs are, there are a ton of them available.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, I just actually saw this the other day. A friend told me this the other day, who works in like the kind of tech recruiting and placement industry. So he's like a technical recruiter for large companies in Salt Lake City. He told me that in Salt Lake City alone, there's 850 job openings in development right now.
That's huge.
So like in just web development, and open right now, like as in they have open positions right now. So just in Salt Lake City. So that's crazy.
And these starting salaries, they're not your $30,000 job, a year jobs, right? These range from, I don't know, what, 40 to 60, even higher for this type of skill?
So yeah, we collect that stat. So on those graduates from our program who are willing to share their salary of what they're making right now, we're averaging $62,000 coming out of our program. That's the average salary in Utah, in our Utah campuses. 62,000.
So you're talking about success rate, which is high. What's the cost? 10,000, right, or so?
Yep.
12 weeks. You're in Provo, a good
and
place.
Salt Lake. Yep.
And Salt Lake. That's a good place to be. What's I mean, you should be like turning out thousands and thousands of these kids. What's the toughest part of either trying to get recruits or people to sign up or through the program? What's the hardest job or the hardest thing for you there at DevMountain?
Yeah, you want to know honestly, it's space. It's
Really?
just having enough chairs for these people to sit in. Leases, because at DevMountain we actually offer housing included with our tuition. So in that 10,500 tuition price tag, it actually includes your housing for the
Wow.
time in the program.
Wow.
So we actually have it's pretty funny. We have a majority of people coming to DevMountain from outside of the state. So we have people from New York or Chicago or Seattle or even the Bay Area or Texas or wherever coming to little old Provo, Utah, or little old Salt Lake City, in the eyes of the nation, and coming here for 12 weeks at a time and living here because in the tuition baked in is free housing. So
What's
it's housing and like just space for class. It's really it's a huge pain for us.
obviously doing some research on you and the company and stuff. I can't see a weakness or anything like that. At first, I thought it was going to be, well, they're in Provo, so competitively, with other type of boot camps like this, they're maybe at a disadvantage. But now I'm thinking maybe it's more of an advantage. And for you specifically, you've had some success in the past, but you're still a young guy. You're still running this. You're helping run this company out of Provo, which a lot of people haven't heard of, and you guys are still doing great. I mean, what's going to stop you from continuing to expand and compete with the big boys? I mean, you're already competing with the big boys. What can be an obstacle in your way for world domination, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, competition is always there in every industry you're in, right? I mean, if you're doing something, chances are someone's already doing the exact same thing as you and trying to beat you out. At the end, entrepreneurially, you should always think that way, that, you got to be the biggest, the best, and always be competing. You should never be comfortable as an entrepreneur. And, we're definitely seeing that now. When we started this thing in 2013, I think maybe there was 3, maybe 5 coding boot camps, quote unquote, doing the same thing that we are. And now I think there's over 100 in the United States.
Wow.
So, it's not regulated, right? This is a coding boot camp. It's not a 4-year Title for university that's regulated by the government. I couldn't just go and start another Utah University or another BYU if I wanted to, but I could go and start a coding boot camp if I wanted to. So a ton of people are just doing that. Anybody who's a developer can open up a coding boot camp in their garage if they wanted to. That regulation is coming. We're already seeing the government and the state and cities already sticking their hand in this ton of stuff that we're doing to try to regulate these things. But I think DevMountain definitely has the time advantage, being the first to market, and also just the brand behind us. DevMountain's definitely, one of the top ones in the nation where we're actually pumping out a quality product where, we're actually helping these students say what we say that they're going to do by the time they leave our doors. And go out into the marketplace and actually get jobs and actually be skillful and actually be able to code. So, we're delivering on our product. And I think that's one of our biggest competitive advantages is we're actually doing what we say we're doing, right? Where actually some boot camps aren't doing that.
So now you, this is your baby. You're a co-founder. What have you personally been focusing on here at DevMountain? What does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so when we started 3+ years ago, as an entrepreneur, you wear many hats and you have your hand in everything. But now I think DevMountain's actually had the luxury to kind of build team members and be able to kind of shed responsibility off from the co-founding team and onto more of other trusted employees. So I am now very much so focused on actually things outside of class. So anything that has to do with, business development, marketing, admissions, employer relations for placing our students, anything that's not mentoring, teaching, or curriculum really is what I've kind of been placed over now at DevMountain, with a huge emphasis on marketing and admissions.
In the beginning, you were doing some of the training as well, if I read this correctly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you miss being in the classroom, or are you fine doing what you're doing now?
I really enjoy the business side of startups and business. I really enjoy getting out there, shaking people's hands, talking to people, making relationships, quote unquote selling. I'm not really selling anything, but we have to do some kind of form of marketing to get people in the door. And I really love it. I love the creative side of a business and marketing and messaging and campaigning and content and whatnot. But yeah, our whole co-founding team, there's 3 of us when we started DevMountain, and all of us were developers. So one of which, who is now our Dub CEO, Kalen Sharp, he is a very experienced developer, and he's kind of taken over, overseeing curriculum, overseeing classroom, and mentoring and instructing. And so he's just far better at it than I am. And so he took it and ran with it, and he's doing a great job there, kind of overseeing all of our locations and all of our curriculum. But yeah, no, I still get into code. I still actually maintain the website myself. Nice. And build out pages when we need them, and functions and features and everything that we need. So I'm still in the day-to-day of actually coding, but not so much the mentoring or instruction.
A large percentage of our audience, we're entrepreneurs, we're founders, we have built something or we're building something now, right? So we understand that these things become our babies, right? We love them, and we put a lot of heart, sweat, and tears into these projects that we're doing, just like you with DevMountain. But now, earlier this year, a bigger company or another company came knocking on your door, kind of kicking tires and seeing if to acquire you. Walk us through that process, what that was like, and what ended up happening.
Yeah, so Capella Education Company, I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're an all-online university based out of Minnesota. And they came knocking on our door in about November of 2015, just kind of trying to get to know us and see what we were doing. And we could kind of tell their intentions from the very beginning. And so we treated it very seriously. And we actually had a couple of other suitors come knocking on our door at the exact same time. And Capella just felt right in all of our discussions and everything. We just felt like they really respected us, as far as entrepreneurs and as far as, leaders within the boot camp industry and space. They really said, you guys know what you're doing. We don't. We're in normal education, traditional education. We have no idea what's going on in this boot camp realm. So we want to partner up with you guys to get into the boot camp realm. And then, by May of 2016, so that's almost a 6-month period of time there, a deal was finally made, and we were acquired in May of this year.
Was that difficult for you?
To actually, sign away my baby?
Yes.
Yes and no. I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, you always think like, oh, when the time comes down to it, will you be able to do it? I mean, yes, they make the situation and the offer hard to give up, right? Of course, that's the whole negotiation process. You get to a level or terms that you as an entrepreneur feel comfortable giving up that baby. And on top of that, like I said, we felt super comfortable with our acquiring company, with our parent company now, and how lenient and how nice and how easy that transition has been over, since May till now, November. It's been amazing how much, they've been, again, just really hands off, saying, you guys know what you're doing. Why would we come in here and change that? So, we're basically doing the exact same thing we were doing before, except for now the only difference is I got a boss now.
Yeah, and that could have been very difficult, right? I mean, especially for the founding members, when things like this happen. It could have been a completely different interview or story right now, talking about how it kind of all went south. But so far, so good. You're enjoying it. It's a good partnership. What is this going to look like, DevMountain specifically? What is DevMountain going to look like in 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think they definitely want to see that hockey stick, right? Yep. I mean, of course they do. That you're not going to go and buy a $20 million product without hoping that it's going to blow up and get bigger and give you back a return on your investment. So that's exactly what they want to see as well. So yeah, DevMount has some big plans for 2017. Now that 2016 is coming to a close, we're hunkered down thinking about what we're going to be doing in 2017, 18, 19, 20 and beyond. Capella's a $500 million company. They do a lot of planning, and they're not just kind of flying by their coattails and just kind of winging it as they go, like maybe DevMountain was like a year ago, right? Just a typical startup. They plan and project, and that's what we're doing with them. And it's exciting to see where we all are planning and projecting where DevMountain will be, which is just bigger and more, right? Our mission is to literally teach anybody and everybody how to code, and in an affordable and an impactful way. And so I think that goal is only accomplished by more locations, more class offerings, and being even more accessible to everybody.
By most people's standards, if not everybody's standards, this is a success. DevMountain is a success. You're a success because of it. But now let's kind of work our way backwards a little bit more. This is not your first kind of rodeo, right? I mean, you've kind of done this before with Matchmate. Quickly tell us about Matchmate and what ended up happening there.
Yeah, so let's even go a little bit further back to, ever since I was in elementary school, I've been so into just like computers, right? I remember getting on like in 5th grade in my little elementary school up in Seattle, Washington. I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. And I remember getting on like Microsoft Paint, like the first version of Microsoft Windows that ever came out. Nice. And getting on Microsoft Paint and just being like, this is amazing, like drawing like lions and hearts and whatever, like a 6th grader does. And, I kind of took that Microsoft Paint. I eventually kind of converted it into like Corel Draw and like Flash. And then I converted that into like the Adobe suite with Photoshop and Illustrator. And then I met a guy right when I was out of high school who was a web developer. And he goes, man, your eye for design and your creativeness would be amazing if you got into like front-end design. And so I started saying, okay, what's that? What's HTML? What's CSS? What's all this stuff? And I started dabbling in it, and eventually got to a point of when I was at college, I came down to Utah for BYU to get a degree under my belt. And when I was at BYU, I finally got to a point where I could actually charge for those services, got good enough to where I said, okay, hey, there's all these people that need these design and coding services for front end facing websites. I'll do that for them. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, hey, why am I doing this for other people? Let me just do it for myself. So naturally I said, I just need to think of an idea. So I got together actually with my brother-in-law, who the guy that married my sister. And of course, me being single and at BYU and ready to mingle, I came up with a dating website idea. So that's what Matchmate was when I was at BYU. I started that about halfway through my BYU career, and actually because I think I was at a university and a user of the product, I really built something that was kind of for me and for my brother and for my friends, and I really used them as like my feedback groups. And eventually we built something that apparently a couple people wanted, and we had at one point I think like 150,000 users on the app. Really? Yeah, and it started taking off kind of very locally here at BYU. And
what year was this?
This was 2011, or so, and it kind of was the Tinder before Tinder was, and we kind of missed the whole Tinder boat because Tinder came about 2013, I think I want to say. But basically, eventually, what happened is we built out this dating website with the functionality of just kind of matchmaking online with like your Facebook friends and everything before social even blew up that much. I mean, it was blown up, but anyways, we eventually got acquired by a competitor of ours that was backed up by Microsoft Ventures. So they had a little bit of capital in their pockets. And so they just said, hey, we basically want what you guys have. Will you sell it to us? And we came to an agreement and we sold it off to them. And actually, I think that company's now dead. So,
is it really?
Yeah. So good thing we kind of got out when we did.
So, with that success with DevMountain and, I don't know that we'll get too much into this, but your parents, right? Your dad is a successful entrepreneur in his own right, and has had a huge impact on a lot of entrepreneurs, not just here in Utah, but throughout the West and throughout the U.S. Right. So you have the the backing, the goods, the whatever you want to call it,
I got it in my blood
to do whatever you want, right? So what's next, basically? I mean, is DevMountain long term here now, or are there other projects that you're thinking about that you're looking to kind of start up here? What is this going to look like for you personally in 5 years?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question I get nowadays is people coming up to me and saying, what is next? And for right now, I mean, I'm in a good situation, and of course, I have the entrepreneurial bug. I just want to, see that DevMountain land somewhere softly and correctly, right? I don't know if that's going to be a month from now. I don't know if that's going to be 10 years from now. I really don't. But if something comes along the way that excites me enough, right, then I guess that's where I'll go, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm just trying to kind of get back into the entrepreneurial world. Because, when you're a startup founder, you have to almost exit the meetups and the networking and the mingling to really get heads down into
Absolutely.
your product. And that's what I've done for the last 3 years, right? It's just been go, 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 heads down because of the growth that DevMountain has been experiencing. And so actually now I actually have time to kind of get back into that and really participate in like the ecosystem that exists in the thriving tech communities of Utah, whether that's Southern Utah or Northern Utah or the middle of Utah, it doesn't matter. I think everywhere in Utah has a ton of stuff going on. And so I'm just excited to get back into that and really participate and give back and, mingle with the community. That's my plan going forward.
Well, we're very excited for you. Obviously, the future is bright, not just for DevMountain, but for you personally. And we really appreciate everything you've done for Outlier and for entrepreneurs here in Southern Utah, and specifically up north as well. But when we're entrepreneurs, our audience when they're listening to this show, right? We're going to want to point to one or two things that have made you a success. So what would you say the single most important reason for your success is?
Oh man, that is a hard question, but I really do think it comes back to understanding, basic entrepreneurial principles from such a young age. Like you were saying, my father's been such a huge influence on me. I remember being in little lectures with my father, and instead of it, him coaching me and my siblings, at a family gathering about, basic normal kid things, he would be talking to me about credit cards and
Nice.
different forms of debt and how to sell a product, right? Like it's just, my father was an entrepreneur, and so just by the course of nature I've become an entrepreneur. And I think, again, you said I'm very young, and I'm only 28 years old, and I think because I started earlier, I think in my entrepreneurial career, I matured earlier, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, sure.
I know that sounds weird, but I just started practicing these things literally when I was 13 years old. Like literally, I remembered selling shirts on the street corner when I was 13 years old, and actually making a decent amount of money. I looked at my dad and I said, "Whoa, I made like $900 today." And he's like, "Awesome, that's all yours." And I'm like, "That's awesome." And I remember taking that money and just going and putting it in my closet and stuffing cash in the back of my closet.
That's awesome.
So it's just because I started that, instead of starting when I was 25 or 35 or
Yep.
30 or whatever it is, like a lot of entrepreneurs do, I just started at a younger age. So just get into it now. My advice would be get into it now, take the chance, and there's no better time than to start right now, because the more you wait, the more time that goes by, the older you get, the more risk you have to take on, the further along you go. The younger you are, the less risk you typically have in your life. And that'd be my advice, is just go for it.
Completely agree. That's great advice. So thank you for sharing that with our audience. Now, last official question. How do you want to be remembered when all of this is said and done?
Man, that's a hard question as well. I don't know. I would just like to be remembered as the guy that's, nice and works hard and tries to, please everybody and builds great products. And I don't care about being rich. I don't care about, how many people actually like me. I just care about, being remembered as someone who tried his best and tried his hardest and tried to make products that made a difference. And I know that sounds super cliche entrepreneurial, entrepreneur cliche, but it's true. I just want to build products that actually make a difference, and I've experienced that with DevMountain, right? Where I can see someone who's come through our program and, maybe before was like a Subway sandwich maker, right? And making $30,000 a year. And then going through our program, after he graduates, he writes me an email and says, Tyler, thank you so much for starting DevMountain. It has honestly changed my life. I tripled my family's income. I'm able to buy my kids amazing things for Christmas this year. Like, those kind of emails are seriously the whole reason why I continue to churn, right? And the whole reason why I'm still here. And I think you have to have that kind of passion in your startup, because if you don't, then, you're going to come to work and hate, working on the product of whatever you're working on, right? You have to get through those tough moments with something like that.
Well, listen, you're certainly well on your way to making that a reality, right? You've already, you and your team are already changing lives. So we continue to wish you much success, and we're looking forward to having you on the show a year or two from now to see what else you've been up to. But Tyler, this has been amazing, man. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, to share your words of wisdom, to share your journey with us, and just kind of what it takes to be you and what it takes to run successful companies. So we really appreciate it. Now, for our audience that wants to kind of connect with you or find out more about DevMountain, where can we find you online?
Yeah, I'm on every social media platform. Hit me up with a tweet or with a Facebook message, and I'm more than happy to help people and talk to them. Again, I'm very young, and maybe I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm happy to collaborate and be stupid with you. So, hit me up, and my email address is just tyler@devmountain.com. You can feel free to send me an email. Hopefully this email doesn't land in the wrong place and I get a ton of spam mail, but happy to talk to anybody and everybody. So
I like that. Let's be stupid together. Awesome.
Yeah.
So Outliers, you can go to outliermagazine.co. That's outliermagazine.co. First of all, subscribe to our podcast, rate, review it. But there we're going to have links to Tyler's website, social media accounts. Feel free to reach out to him. Again, he knows what he's doing, and he's willing to talk to any of you. So
thank
Tyler,
you.
Again, we really appreciate it. We'll definitely be in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Outliers, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Station.